integrity has to start from within yourself, because you cannot demand integrity from someone else if you yourself, you're not a person of integrity. And even when we come to gender-based violence, men are also suffering, but the challenge, I said, is culture. In most societies, men are taught to shut up, not to cry, not to seek for help, because they will be seen as vulnerable. They are suffering. There's power in collaboration. Corruption is a field that is mutating every single day. It's kind of when you realize this is one of the loopholes, another loophole is like comes up. There's this other situation where you find a driver who is not compliant on the road, knows that the car is not compliant, but will still drive the car. Why? Because they know that even the traffic officers are only need to give them something small. In Kenya, we call it toa kitu kidogo. So toa kitu kidogo is where you just find a police officer. If you are in a mistake, you just give them like $10 or even less than less than $10 actually. Just even $1 and you just go. I always prefer us talking about integrity other than anti-corruption, because I feel like anti-corruption is just like a small component in this fight, as opposed to talking about integrity. I feel like integrity is holistic compared to anti-corruption.
From Urban Everyday UK, welcome to A Day in a Life. I'm Joe Kwaku, and behind every face, there is a story waiting to be told. Join us as we explore the diverse tapestry of lives across the UK. From bustling cities to quiet corners, we celebrate the ordinary moments that make life extraordinary. This is A Day in a Life. Welcome to another episode of A Day in a Life, where we celebrate the unique stories of everyday people. We are honored to have Damaris Aswa from Kenya with us, a dedicated anti-corruption activist. She's making waves in the fight against corruption across borders. Join us as we explore her inspiring journey and the impact of her work on empowering women and communities. Let's dive in. Damaris, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dojo, for having me here.
It's wonderful to have you. And we've had the privilege of working together on the Anti-Corruption Syndicate. And I've always been impressed by your dedication. Could you please start by sharing a bit about your journey as an anti-corruption advocate? Would like to know a bit more about your work.
Thank you so much, Dojo. That's an interesting question. And most of the time when people ask, I'm like, oh, okay. It takes me back to ages, like years and years back when I was back in high school. So honestly speaking, in the beginning, I was so hesitant in this field about anti-corruption because of the challenges that comes with the fight against corruption and the fact that corruption seemed to be, cutting through all the sectors of the economy. And, I found myself standing at crossroads most of the time. And, in Kenya, most of the time we could see headlines about corruption, politicians, even the normal citizens, engaging in corruption. And I was like, okay, as a young person, what can I do? And, it took me back to the time when I was finishing my primary school and I was about to join secondary, or let me say high school. And then my parents didn't have enough financial resources to take me to high school, so I delayed a bit. And in the course of delaying, my slot was almost sold to a wealthy family. That was like a culture by then where when you delay school to join high school, your slot could be easily sold to someone else. So I was at that verge of losing my slot, but thank God my parents came in and they were able to take me to school. But that was one of the catalysts. And I was asking myself, if this can happen to me, how many young people does this thing affect? So I went through high school, went through university, and finally I graduated and went to the job market. And in the job market, I met this thing called how much do you have or whom do you know affair. And I was like, okay, I was navigating how to get to high school. I'm done with studies and now have the papers. Now I'm being faced with how much do you have or whom do you know affair. I know no one. I come from a humble background. I don't know anyone who can link me to jobs. So that job market with that affair that I've just mentioned made me again sit back and ask myself, okay, how many of us are suffering just because we don't know anyone or just because we don't know we don't have much to offer for us to get jobs? So it pulled me back and I was like, okay, can we think about the unemployment rate that is happening in my country when we talk about young people? And I went search for the data and I found that most young people are actually suffering because one of the contributing factors for them to get employment is because they need to know someone. Nepotism is there. And these are just part of the things that I felt like I need to act. And it reached a point I felt like we are the change makers, we are the catalysts, we are the change that we desire in this world. And I decided, why can't I just step in and be the change that the society needs? And, try my best, to dive into this sector and see how I can be able to support the fight against corruption. So personally, I just delved into this sector armed with only, I would say, passion and zeal for the fight against corruption. And that's when I started with a project called Students Acting for Honesty, Integrity, and Equality. And the vision was very clear to just empower young people with integrity values for them to grow into ethical leaders, because these are young people who will take up leadership roles, who will take these seats, and they need to lead with ethical values with them. So I decided, let me just start with a project that is going to actually empower these young people with these skills, because I believe integrity has to start from within and even at a tender age, because that is where we build the values of these young people. So that's basically how I started, yeah, in this anti-corruption journey.
Wow. Wow. From what I'm getting, your initial experience from transitioning to high school and the possibility that you were going to lose your slot was like a trigger for you. And then having gotten to tertiary level, graduating and now getting into the job market, you were faced with nepotism, like you were faced with that. And you mentioned like whom do you know and how much do you have? And these are relatives. So you observe this and you realize that okay, this is affecting me. And if it's affecting me, then it's affecting maybe lots of people. And having done your research, you looked at the unemployment rate and you realized that this was a big issue. So you went into this. It's more like an organic thing where you experienced you felt that this was something that was troubling our society and we need change. So you got into this space, like you said, be the change that the society needs. And you started doing something by, you set up an organization and started empowering young people with integrity values. And how has it been so far? Like this whole initiative of empowering young people with integrity values. I remember in one of our previous conversations, you spoke about being an integrity, and is it integrity champion, but not an anti-corruption something. I'm missing it about something about being positive about like highlighting integrity and not corruption. Do you want to throw a bit more light on that?
Oh, yeah, I mentioned about that because I was feeling like we're giving so much weight on corruption and mentioning it everywhere instead of being positive about, okay, what can be able to counter corruption? It's integrity. And integrity is very wide. And for me personally, and the organization that I established, we define integrity as answerability. We also define it as, okay, we define it as the alignment of answerability, competence, and ethical values minus corruption. I always prefer us talking about integrity other than anti-corruption, because I feel like anti-corruption is just like a small component in this fight, as opposed to talking about integrity. I feel like integrity is holistic compared to anti-corruption. And most of the time when people have conversations about this fight about on corruption, anti-corruption comes in as reactive measures rather than proactive measures. And when we talk about integrity, most of the time it's both proactive and reactive. So anti-corruption, most people talk about it in the lens of reactive. Yeah, so I always feel it's always good for us to talk about integrity. At the same time, it is important for us to talk about integrity because we need to nurture these values from early stages. Talking about anti-corruption to a child will be a bit of how would you explain it to a small child about
Mm.
anti-corruption? But when you talk about integrity values, these are honesty, responsibility, all these things. It's like you're building
Exactly.
them, your character building this kid. When they grow up into ethical leaders. So I find talking about integrity is more better than just us focusing about anti-corruption. And as I already mentioned, is that our organization and we sat down and decided to come up with an interesting definition of integrity. I'm not so sure if you'll ever find it anywhere because this is just something we came up after heavy conversation with some stakeholders. And we decided to say that integrity is the alignment of answerability, competence, ethical behaviors, minus corruption, or you can say plus anti-corruption mechanisms. And that's why all the time I will talk about integrity, because I believe when I talk about integrity, I capture all elements, a lot of things other than just talking about anti-corruption here.
Thank you for sharing, and that's spot on. You've been
Okay.
traveling extensively lately. How have these travels intersected with your work in anti-corruption?
Uh, okay. Honestly, I would say that's a very good question. Why do I say that's a very good question? Because we travel for various reasons. And one of the reasons that personally I travel is because I want to rejuvenate. I want to just have that moment to relax, and in this moment of rejuvenating, relaxing, I get to have more ideas on how I can be able to handle various issues, both at personal level and even professional level. I get more creative ideas because I get to interact with so many people, engage with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and from these conversations or these travels, I get to get new ideas, and honestly, over the past 12 years, I've been doing some vacations and traveling purposely because I need to meet people whom we can be able to have conversations around this topic and also be able to understand um how are they contributing to this fight against corruption? What are the strategies they are using, or what are the measures that they are putting in place that I can be able to maybe borrow a leaf or something? Can I be able to just share about our work? Can we find common ground where we can be able to collaborate? Or maybe I can be able to even make an ask because I am running an organization, and when you're running organization, you still need resources. So sometimes I travel, I meet people, I can be able to make an ask and see if they can be able to come in and support our work. And yeah, so I would say basically my travels have exposed me to a wide range of ideas, a wide range of network, because honestly, I want to back up this niche that is always being said that your network is your net worth. It's really, really true because it's the network that I've built across different continents that have supported the work that I'm doing and also supported the organization that I'm running. So in a nutshell, I'll say uh, just these travelings have been able to just support the work that I do because of the connections that I make with people and the conversations we have with different people and being able to also make an ask, with different people that I met. And
Okay,
also,
so that's great.
yeah, there's something that I forgot. Even sometimes I travel for conferences, workshops, and all those meetings. Apart from just traveling for vacations, of course, I travel for those conferences, meetings. And in these conferences, workshops, I meet leaders or change makers from across the world. And I feel like this is an opportunity for me to just be able to talk about what I do. And I'm so passionate about anti-corruption or building integrity at the lower level, like fighting corruption at the grassroots level. So what I do when I go to these workshops, meetings, conferences, I want to represent the voices of the marginalized, the voices of those people at the grassroots level. And I talk about our interventions at the grassroots level to make sure that our voices are being heard. And I remember there was this conference that I went recently, and I spoke so passionate about how organizations are receiving funding from donors and supporters, external supporters and donors across the globe. And these donors and supporters don't even bother to come to the ground and check on the reality on how we are implementing these programs or the initiatives on the ground. They just give us money and they trust that we can be able to implement the project as per the contract we signed. But sometimes they depend on evaluators and evaluators and this, what do we call them, auditors. And these auditors
Mm,
are people from our countries, right? And if there's that culture of people just bribing people, sometimes in other countries corruption has become like a culture. So even these auditors and evaluators sometimes get manipulated, and there can easily be a compromise to give out reports to the donors that are fake or that are not really representing what is on the ground. So spoke passionately about this, and I was requesting for donors and funders out there. Okay, we really appreciate that they are giving us funds, but is it okay for them to do impromptu visits and come to the ground and assess it themselves? Because when they come to get the ground, honestly, whatever they will meet, they will be shocked. So I was
mm,
just trying to pass an information so that we bridge, this is just part of the gaps that are that are increasing corruption, that are like creating loopholes for corruption to
mm.
thrive even at grassroots level. And you find that even interventions are becoming ineffective, or they don't even reach the intended beneficiaries. So I feel good when I go out and have these conversations with that passion for the work that I do. Yes, in a
Yeah.
nutshell, that is
And
what I
that's
would say for now.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you're just sharing is like it's spot on. It's like that's the things to do. Like you're saying, we set up these so-called measures to curb corruption, but people have devised ways to go around these measures. So if there are no impromptu for some visits from, let's say, donor partners to actually come to the ground and see these things, they feel that the project has been delivered all right, but for all you know, the people on the ground are not experiencing the purpose for which the whole project was established or designed. You're right. So, what are some of the key challenges you've observed in the fight against corruption, both in your home country of Kenya and globally? I mean, you were speaking about initially, you didn't even want to go into this because of the challenges and all of that, but you're already in it and you're very much passionate about it. So, what are some of the challenges you've observed in the fight against corruption?
There's so many challenges, but these challenges won't hinder us from doing our work and demanding accountability from ourselves and even from our leaders. So
Mm,
now, challenge number one I would like to mention is when I was implementing this project called Students Acting for Honesty, Integrity, and Equality, it required me to go to schools to establish integrity clubs. Okay, I understand that in Kenya, we have a commission called Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission of Kenya, which is mandated by the government, of course, from the Ministry of Education, to also establish and sustain these integrity clubs in schools. So our work as community-based organization and governmental is to support or complement their work. So this project required me to work with them and be able to establish more integrity clubs and sustain them. Now, the challenge came in when we were establishing them in schools that did not have them. Some of the head teachers felt like we are now establishing something that is going to be like a watchdog. And they had that resistance asking us, okay, what are these integrity clubs about? What is the monitoring element for? Because for us, we believe in practicals most of the time other than just theory. So for us, we were bringing in the element of monitoring of the infrastructure and service projects in schools, to just teach these students in a practical way about accountability, transparency, responsibility, honesty. Yeah, so we explained these things to head teachers, and at first, some of them were really hesitant and they thought that we are going to monitor them and how they spend money. But at the same time, I was asking myself, what is it that they are doing that they don't want to be watched? Is it that there's something that they're hiding? But we tried to explain to them, and finally we got approvals and we rolled the project out. But yes, that is one of the challenges that we face. Another challenge is that being a woman, I will say this every time. Gender dimensions that are coming when you're fighting this. I think it's just global. I wouldn't say this just because I'm talking about women, just because I'm a woman. I'm talking this from experience. So
I
the
was going
fight
to
that
ask you about that actually, so thanks for bringing it up.
All right. So this fight really has exposed me to some challenges, and I wouldn't really lie. Sometimes it's really painful and you go to bed crying and asking yourself why. But at the same time, you just wake up and say, okay, I still have another day to just work for the community. I remember this day I woke up and I went to my social media and I find I'm trending.
Mm.
You are not trending on a good note, you're trending on a bad note. And I'm asking myself, what is not happening? My now people are now calling me. I find missed calls. I try to call back, and my family is asking, what is wrong? What is happening? We are seeing photos, we are seeing videos, and I'm like, what is happening? When they send me the photos and the video, it's really sad. I'm saying this because I've overcome it, but it's something that I would not really wish for any other person to go through it. Yeah. So I saw my videos and photos. Okay, the photos, the face looks like me, but the body is not me. The environment, I don't even know the environment. And they're depicting you in a very negative way. So for me, because I already entered this space and I was already familiar that things might be a bit different from what I was thinking. Like I was so much prepared for even the negatives. So when I came across this situation, I called everyone who was interested to call me and text me, and I told them, relax. You all know that in this fight that I'm fighting against corruption, this was bound to happen. It was just a matter of time. I have so
Mm.
much people who so many people who don't want me to continue with this fight. They know I'm empowering a generation that is going to hold them accountable. So it's
Mm.
like I'm fighting some people indirectly, and they would not really want me to continue. They want to shut me down. They want to silence my voice. And I told them, you know this. Um, what I require from you is to remain silent, remain calm. Everything is gonna be all right. I went, reported it to the police officers, got an OB, but nothing happened. That is in
Mm.
Kenya. Nothing happened. I still have the OB or whatever. So I just decided to go online first and tell them I don't know about that. And if is anyone who will be seen or heard sharing all the videos or photos will be arrested, and who have to provide proof,
Mm.
that this is actually me, and this is where I was. So I think when the person who was doing that saw that, they stopped, because I had to bring in now the illegal action. So I said,
Go.
anyone who's gonna caught with this training or supporting this is gonna held accountable, because this has to stop,
Mm.
And I also got to understand that we are living in an era of AI, artificial intelligence, photo shopping.
Photoshopping and all of
It's
that.
happening left, right, and center, Dojo. You can find yourself maybe giving a speech that you never spoke. You can find yourself somewhere in a conversation that you are not even there. So I
Mm.
I took it upon myself to now educate the community on the current advantages and disadvantages that we are currently having with
Technology.
artificial intelligence and technology right now. That you
Mm.
might find yourself in such a situation. What will happen? So I've been having these conversations, especially with girls and women. One, because we have a program that we are training young people on digital skills. And one of the ways, the things that we are talking to them about is online well-being, how they can be able to data fact check, before even sharing. And we are teaching them in a holistic way, so that as much as we're giving them these digital skills to help us fight corruption and come up with innovative approaches to fight corruption, they be aware that the time they engage with digital platforms, there might come a situation they might face whatever I faced. But how are you going to counter this?
Mm.
And what are the platforms that are existing for you to be able to report such cases? Yeah, so I did my part, and I started now empowering other people, especially young girls and women, about this. But I overcome it by this something that is still going on. I don't know what is really happening, but I think it requires a lot of empowerment, a lot of sensitization, a lot of character building to people to understand that this is your brother or this is your sister. Why would you do this to your own sister or your brother? We need to be human enough, because we believe in the spirit of Ubuntu. You are because I am. I am because you are. If we live in that spirit, that will not do anything to harm your fellow person. Yeah. So that's another challenge. Another thing is underfunding in this space. As I speak to you, right now, I told you that for you to establish integrity clubs or have interventions in schools, you have to work in partnership with Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission of Kenya. And you find that even the such bodies are underfunded. And for example, in my county, where we are supposed to have like over 500 schools, we only have one education officer from Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission of Kenya, who is supposed to oversee all these schools. So how is this person going to seriously go to all these schools? One person for
Mm.
500 schools, right? And that
That's
brings in
impossible, right?
exactly. And that's bringing the element where now collaborations are important, partnerships with non-governmental entities like ourselves. We come in and support them, you know? So underfunding also affects, reaching out to these young people with all these skills and even the empowerment programs that we need to have. If you don't have funding, then it becomes a little bit a challenge. So underfunding, in both, I would say underfunding in both the entities that are affiliated to the government, even non-governmental organizations like us. And more worse is that grassroots organizations like us, now it becomes even worse because most donors and funders will want to fund big entities, big
Mm.
non-governmental organizations, and these grassroots ones that are there that are actually creating that impact at the grassroots level are not really being recognized that much
Mm.
in this space.
Mm.
Yeah, and I feel like it's high time that these donors look at the impact we are creating and not just like we are a small organization working at local level. No, we are working at local level, but remember, petty corruption is happening everywhere, especially at the grassroots level. And this petty corruption grows into grand corruption. It's that
Mm.
sporadic corruption that grows into autogenic, that grows into systematic, and finally becomes, grand corruption.
Gotcha.
So, saying that these small organizations need to get sub grants, need to rely on other partnership for them, then they're really missing the point because we are creating that impact. How I wish they can be able to just see what we are doing on the ground. And
Mm.
additionally, the space itself is having a challenge on the balancing the legal, or say the checks and balances, are very weak. The
Mm.
legal entities in our organization, reinforcement of laws, this is just something that's really having a challenge in our country and maybe somewhere else. I'll give you an example. So let's
Mm.
say
Sure.
there was a time that we were speaking to a group of young people on sexual reproductive health and rights. And one person mentioned that there was a time their neighbor had undergone gender-based violence and went to report to a nearest police station. And when they reported to the nearest police station, the person who was in charge of recording the statement requested for some money in order to continue with the investigation. So this person is a victim, has come to the legal enforcement to get support on how they can be able to get justice. But the legal system itself is acting as a barrier for people to get
Mm-hmm.
justice. You know,
Justice. That's true.
so it was really painful on my side. Like this the legal entities has their own responsibility to protect us, to help us achieve justice. But if they can just demand bribes from us for services they're supposed to offer, then that is something else. Then there
So
is a
this is how, sorry. So this is how corruption, this is one of the ways how corruption is impacting the communities. It's just like you've delved into the second part of the question I was just about asking that. How do you see corruption impacting different communities and the world and our communities in total, or the world in general? I mean, like you're saying, how corruption in this case is obstructing justice. Somebody has been abused sexually. The person has come to the legal system to report and to seek redress, and now the legal system is perpetuating this thing because they are asking the person to pay a bribe in order to gain access to the justice that they deserve. So, I mean, it's serious. So this one of the ways that corruption is really impacting negatively our community.
Yeah, that is really one of the ways corruption is really impacting our communities down, especially at grassroots level. Another way, I don't know, I'll just be combining now challenges with how it affects. Now, there's this other situation where you find a driver who is not compliant on the road, knows that the car is not compliant, but will still drive the car. Why? Because they know that even the traffic officers, I only need to give them something small. In Kenya, we call it toa kitu kidogo. So
Mm.
toa kitu kidogo is where you just find a police officer. If you are in a mistake, you just give them like $10 or even less than $10, less than $10 actually.
Mm.
Just even $1 and you just go, you know? So it's like a culture, it's becoming like a culture where now
Yeah.
people feel like, I can just do anything, you know? The only thing I need to
That's
have is money.
confidence.
But now, do we look at the effects? So this is a vehicle that is not supposed to be on the road, but because there are rogue traffic officers, you bribe your way and go. Then on the way, you need to have like you get an emergency, and then you realize your brakes are not working, and you've carried
Mm.
passengers on that vehicle. What happens? You get an accident, and when you get an accident, two things can happen: you can survive, or you can have injuries, or people can die. So they can even
People
lead
will
to
die.
catastrophic effects, you know, and
Hmm.
and this is all about corruption. Another instance, let me give you, that's why I say corruption cuts across all sectors. Recently, we had a situation where farmers were being sold fertilizer that was fake. So
Oh,
farmers complained. When they complained about this, the government came in and brought in people who just went to investigate if it was true or not. And then they realized that it was actually true, that farmers
mm.
were being given fake fertilizers. So tell me, if you have acres of land that you've already, planted and used that fertilizer, you're gonna go at a loss. We're speaking about hunger, we're speaking about all these
Mm.
things, but corruption is really affecting all the sectors of the economy, you know, directly and indirectly. We are having situations where we need to have books being distributed in schools, and we need to have bursaries and scholarships for our children to go to school. We have community development fund that is being given at county and national level. All those, like, even the county and the members of parliament, ward representatives, they always have this community development fund that gives bursaries to people, to students who are vulnerable to go to school. But what happens when it comes to distribution of these bursaries? It
Mm.
is, whom do you know? I will give
Mm.
someone I know, friends or whatever. I will only give a portion like 20% to vulnerable for them to say, okay, I applied and I got. But when you dig deeper, you find that a lot of the money has gone to people who did not even deserve it.
Mm.
And you're left in a situation where some children do not go to school because they did not get that support that's required for them to go to school. And
True.
some of the areas people are struggling, even finding a meal is difficult. How will they be able to afford even taking their kids to school, and they cannot even afford a meal? They don't even have a roof to put their heads on. Like, they don't have houses, they don't have anything. Like, they're living in abject poverty. And you taking those bursaries that were supposed to help their kids go to school, you're giving them to your own people. People don't deserve it.
You
That's
know,
corrupt. We keep talking about poverty, right? And underdevelopment in our communities. And we are the ones who are actually perpetuating corruption in our communities. We elect leaders who are supposed to stand for us, but they're standing against us. The
mm.
joy, if you follow like global affairs, last year around August there, Kenya had heavy protests in Kenya. We had young people were so tired about the finance bill
True.
that was going to be passed. People are like, no, we say no to the finance bill because it is not factoring in the needs of the common citizen. We tried to talk to the members of parliament, the people we dearly went to the road, to the ballot paper and voted for them to stand for us. But when it came to their voting in parliament, they went against our voices, and they actually
Mm.
approved the finance bill. So what were we supposed to do? We went to our MPs, they never listened to us. What we opted is to go to and protest against the finance bill. Probably the president will hear, not sign.
Mm.
Thank God that the president heard our prayer and did not assent to that finance bill, and they had some amendments done. But that doesn't really limit the fact that they can still go do a little bit of amendments and still make it pass, you know?
True.
So the
True.
people that we are voting, the leaders, are very crucial. And when we vote in leaders who are only thinking about themselves, leaders who are quacks, who are just that when they come to us, they pretend to be good, they pretend to care about us, but deep inside their heart, they're asking themselves, what time will I get that seat so that I can start eating? You know?
Mm.
the problem. And then, the Joe, I've had this notion where people think that voting in young people will now bring in change. Let me tell you one thing. If you do not empower these young people with ethical values, with integrity values, what makes you think that when they take these seats, they will act ethically? They're not
Mm.
empowered. You know,
So,
high
so
chances are that they still follow in the footsteps of their masters.
true. True. That brings me to the next question. I mean, yeah, we're really sinking, you know. So I was just going to ask now, like you just said, have you observed any best practices or innovative approaches to combating corruption? So, like you're saying, many people have thought about, okay, the old guys are just being corrupt, and then old people in politics are not thinking about the populace who are largely youth, especially in Africa. So now let's vote for young people. And like you're saying, voting for young people does not necessarily change the practice of corruption. So it's not really about let's say, the age of the politician or the leader, as it were, but it's about, like you're saying, integrity. So right now I want us to go into have you observed any, or do you know of any best practices or innovations to combat corruption? Do you want to highlight on a few of these?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about okay, if you can allow me to 1 minute, talk about the cultural
Yeah.
aspect that is really challenging us, especially in Africa.
Mm,
You know, um, the cultures that we have and the traditions sometimes actually perpetuate corruption. Uh, we want to sugarcoat it and say it is hospitality, that when I'm visiting the Joy in the office, these are, let's say you are a lawyer, and I know that you are handling a case, maybe I'm the perpetrator, and a victim has come to you as the lawyer. So people want to pretend as if when I'm visiting the lawyer dojo with an envelope, that is hospitality, you know. I had
mm.
this conversation in one of the conferences, and it was really painful to hear a judge, was it a judge or someone sitting in I don't know the title really well, but was a legal person in
Mm.
Tanzania, saying that it is our hospitality for me to visit someone with an envelope.
Ooh,
I come visit your office. You are a lawyer representing a victim, and I'm coming to you as a perpetrator with a
an envelope.
envelope. What does that mean? Is it really hospitality?
Mm,
I am, another example. We are conducting household visits to ascertain the vulnerability of applicants so that we can give them scholarships or bursaries, right?
hmm.
We reach an household, we do our assessment and all that. And before we leave, the family gives us farm products, cassavas, potatoes, bananas, and they tell us, okay, this is our hospitality. Please take it. We appreciate you visiting our place.
Mm,
You know that whatever they have done is just sort of indirectly bribing you. When you're going to assess those, finally analyzing them, that thing that you took, the farm products, will still affect you psychologically. You'll be like, oh my goodness, that family was really good to me. Okay, they're not
mhm,
really vulnerable, but I took their bananas, I took their ABCD, I even ate from their household.
mm.
You are now pinned, your conscience is now pinning you down, and you end up selecting someone who is not even vulnerable.
To
Our
impact
culture,
your assessment.
yes, our cultures are really, I feel like our cultures are really perpetuating corruption. You are a parent and you have a kid. You send your kid to the shop. I think we had this conversation earlier on when we were talking about parenting, and we brought in the element of how parents, or also how parenting can play a role in this fight against corruption. So if you raise your kids in a upright way, good morally way, they can be able to fight corruption. But there's this scenario where we as Africans are so hospitable to an extent where a child will not be sent until they tell you, Mama or Papa, please give me some. Okay, I will go to buy sugar, but please give me some money for sweets.
Mm,
And instead of you giving out, like, this is just my child, I've sent my child, okay, if there's a balance remaining, please take sweets. It is the child who is telling you, I am gonna buy sweets. If you wanna send me, you need to buy me sweets.
Mm.
And then you let this kid grow up with that mentality that I cannot give service for free. I cannot, I cannot give service before I'm given something. Like, I need to get something in return.
Yeah.
And then we reach a point where we are electing leaders who cannot be able to serve you, and the only thing they think about is feeding themselves. They are
Exactly.
actually, getting all the money that it can be able to get and giving us little service or ineffective services on the ground. And we are starting to blame them. But we as parents are the ones who actually started this at a younger stage.
Mm.
So I just wanted to bring in the element of how our culture sometimes perpetuate corruption. But this is an area that is subject to further research, and we need to have a lot of researchers or people coming in to research, especially the cultural element, cultural dimension. All right, now let me jump into some of the innovative tools
Yes.
that I've
But,
come
but before
across.
then, I wanted to ask this question. So, I mean, just when you were touching about this transactional kind of behavior that, like you're saying, in a cultural sense, and even sometimes parents trying to do this with their children. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking. Don't you also think that maybe some parents are also wanting to train their children to think in a business kind of way? That maybe you have to think maybe in a transactional way because you have to earn money. You don't give free services. Like you have to, I don't know if maybe some people are also wanting they want to train their children in this way so that they become more entrepreneurial or have an entrepreneurial spirit or something. I don't know.
That's why I say this area is subject to having like in-depth research on it. But honestly, in my opinion, saying that some parents are doing this because they are training their kids to have that entrepreneurial mind, I will really have reservations on
You don't
that.
think so?
Reason because there are various ways we can teach our children to be entrepreneurs, right? For example, if you're in the village, let's talk about the village. If you are in the village and you have a farm, why can't you like have a small piece of the farm? Tell your child you need to cultivate that farm, grow some vegetables, sell them. When you sell, that money is yours. Isn't that one way of empowering them to be entrepreneurs? Do you really need to tell your child that they cannot be able to render a service before they're given something? And that is a way of training our kids to be entrepreneurs. I would say no, because we are teaching them to be entrepreneurs who are selfish, entrepreneurs who don't care about the staff, entrepreneurs who will do anything at the expense of their own employees. Because they
Mm.
only think about, oh, these are just employees, they're here to give me money. They will not even care about the environment. We will have pollution left, right, and center because for them, they will only care about the money because
Mm.
they've been taught, okay, I only care about money. Money is everything. So they
Mm.
will not even care about the laws that are there. They will not even remit money to revenue authorities, And because before you even do contractual bills with them, they only believe that they can only win bids if they can give money, or you can only win contracts from them if you give them money.
Bribes, yeah.
Because now we are nurturing a win-win situation in terms of character. Give me, scratch my back, I scratch yours. Anyway, that is a sector that is subject to having proper research on, and so that we can draw a line between what are the culturally accepted practices and what are these practices that we call hospitality and cultural practices, but they're actually perpetuating corruption,
Mm.
right?
It's a good
Yes.
one. Yeah, good one. All right. So thank you. Thank you for, I mean, sharing all
Mm.
these very gray areas in anti-corruption and our cultural dynamics as well. Yeah. So how, like, you're now coming to whether
So,
you've observed any best practices and innovative approaches to combating corruption. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So for one of the ways that I've come across where people I actively taking part in the fight against corruption is coming up with various technological tools. People are coming up with apps to check the procurement processes both at national and local levels. And this is really interesting, like the fight against corruption has earned so like huge interest among us various stakeholders, and people are just actively utilizing technology, taking advantage of artificial intelligence to come up with tools that can be able to support this fight against corruption. So people who are coming up with tools to check the procurement processes, and also people who are coming up with tools to report corruption, and but now on the tools to report corruption, we have a little bit of reservations on that, because there's a report that was done, analysis and survey that was done, and people who are asked say that they are having uh, skepticism in reporting corruption because of the whistleblower protection policy.
Mm,
Like most countries, they do not properly reinforce the whistleblower protection policy, and they fear for their safety and
mm,
security. So they most of the time they would rather not report. Even if you have reporting tools that are safe and anonymous, they will still not report because they fear for their lives, and they don't
nice.
have money to run away from the country, right? Yeah, but at the same time, we need to appreciate the efforts that are being brought forward with different stakeholders in this fight by coming up with these tools to report corruption, tools to demand accountability from various stakeholders in various, both at national, local, and even regional levels. We completely understand, appreciate. And we also appreciate innovative ways like empowerment programs that people are having at grassroots level, at national level, to empower the community. Jojo, it will be really interesting for you to know that local community members, especially at the grassroots level, some people don't even know they understand their rights. They do
That's
not
true.
understand their rights. So when they are actually being manipulated, they will not even know. They will, you know, because they don't understand. So I also appreciate those people and organizations or individuals who are actively going to the ground to create awareness on human rights, and
Mm,
also to also let people know that if your human rights aspect is violated, this is the way you can be able to report it, or these are organizations that you can be able to reach out for support.
mm,
Yeah, telling the community members that they should not just keep quiet. Silence is not a solution. We need to
mm,
voice out. If you cannot do it directly, look for these entities or these platforms that you can be able to voice out. It is high time that we do this collectively and not just as one individual. So I really appreciate these entities that are doing this. At the same time, at global level, I also appreciate the policies that are coming out day in, day out to ensure that we are enhancing integrity at the global space, even
mm,
our policies. So the issue of money laundering has been taking place for quite some time because bilateral laws that are favoring the money laundering process. People are
yeah.
doing it in other countries and bringing in the money back at a later stage to reinvest in the country, but this money is being held in another country. So we appreciate the efforts that are being done by these large entities like conventions against corruption,
Mhm,
Transparency International, these entities that are coming up with the surveys on how corruption is manifesting in various countries and giving recommendations on what we can do globally. And these
mm,
conventions that are stipulating laws that are governing these spaces globally, so that we can counter issues like money laundering that is really affecting all, like most part of the countries in the world. So I feel
mm,
like these are part of the things that I can really appreciate. Yeah,
mhm.
the people are really coming in to support the fight against corruption.
Okay. Thank you so much for raising these as well. So has how has your perspective on anti-corruption advocacy changed as a result of your global experiences? Like, I know you've been traveling for some time now. I mean, I've been seeing you on Facebook and on Instagram and all of that. So I've been following you quite yeah, recently we're actually also in the UK. We didn't get to meet, but we should get to meet maybe on your next visit. So, with these travels and experiences, you did mention earlier that most of these are to rejuvenate and also to attending conferences and to network and all of that. Has these travels in any way changed your perspective or added or expanded your perspective on anti-corruption advocacy? You were in the US as well at a certain point as well. So, I mean, how has your perspective on anti-corruption advocacy changed, or has there been any impact of your travels and exposure, global exposure on your work?
Definitely, there's been a lot of impact with my travels. I've seen a lot of support. Let me just put it like this: with my travels, I've been able to make ask, and I've seen people coming in to support our organization, and that is a good thing because I make an ask, tell them that these are the programs we are running. I tell them that we are running a digital skills because we need to empower young people with digital skills, at least to bridge that digital divide, enhance the employability, and then they be in a position to be able to come up with innovative products or prototypes to be able to fight corruption. And I also tell them that we are running a leadership program that is enhancing ethical values in the mid career individuals to be able to lead with integrity and also take up leadership positions. And when I make this ask to people, they just coming and support. And most of these people are just strangers that I meet, and they ask me, how are you? Where are you from? What do you do? And then we get that interest and common ground, and they support our work. At the same time, I remember I met a person that time when I really wanted support in developing an application to report corruption in our organization. And personally, there was no one who was able to do this at a local level, and we needed an expert to do that. We were not able to get someone because of the huge cost in coming up with these applications. People require a lot. Experts require a lot of money, and we were not able
Mm,
to pay that money by that time. So I came across someone who linked me to someone else who offered to do it at a discounted rate. And I was really grateful for that because to paying like those ones who are existing in my country is super expensive. But I was able to get support from someone else who knew someone else and linked me
mm,
up to someone who gave me discount for that. At the same time, in my travels, I've been able to just get that interesting understanding of how other especially developed countries are operating. And it makes me feel like, okay, as much as we still have a long way to go as developing country, but I believe that it gives me that hope that we can be able to achieve. If I go to countries and I see their systems are really working in favor of the local people, of the citizens, I feel like even us, as much as we are developing, we will still be able to reach there. Like it's a process, but
mm,
one day we will be there. So I kind of appreciate what I see outside there, and it challenges me to come back to my community and devise new strategies and ideas to implement and be able to just, one day reach where other countries are able to reach. And at the same time, we meet people who have implemented similar initiatives in their communities, and they share the innovative strategies and tools they're using. And these tools
mm,
might not be the same as ours. So what we do is to borrow some leaf from the tools and strategies they are using, and we bring them
mm,
to our work, and we see them working. And people also have challenges in their communities, and we are also sharing our strategies and tools with them, and they say, okay, let us go and use them in our communities and see if they're working. So these spaces also bring us together to also share our own challenges and also share on the strategies and tools that we are using to be able to, continue with this fight against corruption. So it has been interesting, I would say.
yeah. Thanks so much for sharing. And we've had the opportunity of working together on the Anti-Corruption Syndicate with Voice One Africa, right? Can you share some insight into the importance of collaboration or collaborative action in combating corruption? You've shared some of them actually now.
There's power in collaboration. Corruption is a field that is mutating every single day.
Mm,
It's kind of when you realize this is one of the loopholes, another loophole is like comes up, another loophole comes up. The moment you're tackling this loophole, another loophole comes up. It's like
mm,
a thief. When you understand their route on how they are coming into your house to steal, and you close that route, they will come up with another route to be able to come to the house. So that is
yeah.
how kind of corruption is. It's mutating every single day. And because
Mm.
it's mutating every single day, one of the areas is research, and research needs collaboration. Number two, you cannot fight this fight alone. You need support from various stakeholders, and that's where collaboration comes in. You need people, you need community members, you need CSOs, you need government. Everyone needs to play a role. Everyone has a role. Even young people, they have a key role to play in this fight against corruption. So collaboration is very, very important in this fight against corruption. The collective effort that we can be able to come up with will be able to support us in this fight against corruption.
Mm. Great, great, great.
Yeah.
Um, we've already spoken about the gender dynamic. So, as to whether your gender has in any way affected your work, you've spoken about that. But what motivates you to continue your work in anti-corruption, despite the challenges that you've highlighted and all of these things that you've already spoken about?
Okay, all right. So thank you. To go back a little bit about gender, yes, I spoke about it from a personal point of view, but also allow me to just bring in the gender dimension of corruption, where you know we are having situations that just because you are female or you are male, you are affected differently.
Mm,
For example, you see in employment, we've had scenarios where we are having employers. If an employer is a male, will tend to seek favors from a female applicant for them to give them the job. Or if the employer is a female, wants to seek favors from this male applicant in order to give them jobs. It has been happening, and in Kenya it happened. It was a huge scandal, and
mm,
community members were silent about it. Why? Because for them, they felt, okay, I have to do this for me to get job. Poverty sometimes is a disease. Poverty is cancer. So
it's
people
serious.
say, I want, okay, let me just do it because I need this work. I need to get money to pay my bills.
Mm,
It's really affecting. How many people these people continue to do it too? How many generations, if you're creating this culture? There's an industry in Kenya. I will not be afraid to mention it because the local media was afraid to air it, and it was aired by international media, and that's why it was brought to limelight. There was a
mm.
tea factory in Kenya that was, if you are female, for you to get job in that tea factory, you needed to sleep with
Wow.
the supervisor. So women used to sleep with those with the supervisors for them to
Yeah.
get jobs or promotions,
Wow.
and it reached a point where some females felt is enough, and they started complaining. And when they started complaining to local people, they were unable to air this issue until an international journalist came in and did an investigation and uncovered the ills that have been happening. So this is something that is not just happening just in not in that industry alone or in that factory alone, but this is something that has been happening in most entities. You
Yes,
know,
yes, I can say something. I know during my postgraduate research, I did my research in Ghana. I interviewed lots of people about the air ban, and I interviewed a couple of ladies, and two ladies shared similar experiences where they applied for jobs, and then the manager wanted, I mean, they went through the interview just like any other person and everything. Then they received a call that, okay, you've been successful, but before you come, you have to meet me in this hotel. And this lady was saying she had gone through twice with two different organizations. That means it wasn't just one organization, but it's rampant. Like you're saying. And this was one lady, and another person also mentioned it. I'm surprised you spoke about guys also having to experience this when maybe the manager was a woman and wanting to have a favors, I mean, the sexual favor from a male applicant. Wow, it's interesting.
it is really happening. And even when we come to gender-based violence, men are also suffering. But the challenge, I said, is culture. In most societies, men are taught to shut up, not to
Mm,
cry, not to seek for help, because they will be seen as vulnerable. They are suffering. And that's something that I was actually saying, that I appreciate these interventions that are coming to grassroots level to empower both male and female to understand their rights, and to understand that voicing out does not mean you are vulnerable, that does not mean you are weak.
Weak, yes.
Yeah, it is okay for a man to cry. It is okay for a man to seek help. Mental health is affecting most people, and you see men just dying, like on suicide, just because they cannot be able to seek for help. And when they seek, they're seen as vulnerable. You
Hmm.
know? So yes, this thing is really affecting even them. But for them to seek justice, it is something else. It is something else because most of them don't.
Mm.
Anyway, that was part of the gender dimension of corruption. But of course, I wanted to speak more about it, but because of time, I will not be able to speak it. When it comes to the funding element of gender side, how it is gender based in terms of funding, monitoring, and all that, but requires a lot of time to talk about that. But at least I've mentioned a little bit about the gender
Mm.
aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question was about why I'm
What
motivated to
motivates you?
continue
Yes.
despite all this. I'm motivated by a lot of factors, Dojo. My story about starting this organization called Youth for Integrity Building is so dear to me. I started this organization with no money, nothing. And the only thing I had is passion for this fight. I told you what I went through, and I didn't want someone else to go through. I started this organization because I felt like it's right time for me to empower communities to use the skills and the knowledge I've learned the entire time and during in the various fellowship that I've attended, the networks I've been in, to use the skills and knowledge to empower the community, especially grassroots level. And that's how I started Youth for Integrity Building without even having finances, by just talking to people and mobilizing them and telling them the vision. And they come in and support because they see the impact the organization will create. This organization still motivates me to continue working.
Mm.
It is nothing to do with finances, though most people say, okay, so what will you be able to achieve without finances? I'm here, standing here, sitting here, talking to you, telling you that there's that passion. There's there's more to it. I always feel like the universe is looking at us, the universe is watching us and listening to us. And it always comes in to support in its own ways that we cannot even comprehend, especially when you do something wholeheartedly,
Mm.
passionately, without even expecting to be paid or expecting something in return. And that's something I've always done. And I would say that for me, when I started this journey without expecting to be paid, I felt like the universe came in at the right time. There was a time we didn't really have anything, and it was just about relying on friends, community members to implement our project activities. And and there was a time I just received a notification that, oh, an email that Damaris, you've been nominated for an award. So I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, okay, which award is this? I've never even heard about it. And who is this person that has nominated me? Uh, I don't even have money, So for the entire time, I was actually volunteering for the community. I wasn't employed. I was running the organization with my little savings and the support of my close friends and family members. They were just supporting me. So I was like, who is this person who is nominating me for the award? And what award is this? So I
Mm.
checked on the award, and I read it was reading Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad International Anti-Corruption Excellence Award. So I was pulled
Mm.
aback and said, okay, I've never heard of this award before. I went and Googled about it, and I was shocked that this is a very big award. Okay. So I went back and checked on what they needed. They needed me to submit links to my work, showing that I've been doing what I've been doing for the community, like evidence and all that.
Yeah.
And I was asking myself, okay, so all that I've been doing, I've just been using my money and everything to support the community. And I have few links. I have few links to my work and the previous work that I used to do, although it was on anti-corruption and integrity building, but I was not able to access some of the files because I had already exited the organization.
Mm.
So for me, I said, okay, let me just give it a trial. I submitted all the links that I had by that time and all the documents that I've been able to work on, including the journals, the handbooks to support integrity clubs, anti-corruption books, everything that I had done the entire time. I just submitted and I said, okay, if the universe has already located me now, it's favor from the universe, then it is fine. And then
Mm.
after 2 weeks, I received another notification that congratulations, you've been nominated for the award. And I'm like, oh my
Wow.
goodness. Okay. So actually, there is no action or no there's nothing that you're doing to the community that the universe does not watch. To you, you might think that no one is appreciating you. I was at grassroots level, Dojo, and I never imagined that a global entity like that will even ever know about me. So I want to tell people that it does not matter the small actions that you're doing in the community as long as they are touching the lives of people. It is never for granted. The universe is watching, and even if you are a believer, God is watching and will award you at the right time. So
Mm.
I'm every day I'm motivated by the fact that I feel like the universe is just watching what I'm doing. And number two, because I want to create the change that years back I said I am the change, and I will implement the change that I desire in this world. So I'm also motivated to create that change that I desire for the sake of myself, for the sake of the current generation, and even for the sake of generations to come. And I'm also motivated by the data and the statistics that are there existing day in, day out, showing how corruption causes detrimental effects in all sectors of the economy. This is also one of the things that are making me day in, day out want to come up with more strategies, more collaborations, partnership to fight corruption, you know? So a lot of things, even my family is motivating me in this journey. They are standing with me. Remember when I told you I underwent cyberbullying, they were there with me. They stood with me, they are motivating me in this space. And another thing is that very few people are working in this space in my country, especially young people. And I feel like the space is still needful, is needing a lot of people, young people, and especially women to come out in huge numbers and, demand accountability, dive in this space and take advantage of this space that is still, that is still not occupied with so many people, especially in my country, like women and young people. So those are
Mm.
the power of the things that are really motivating me to
Continue to
continue. This
keep
space is
going.
just unlimited. And
Wow.
also the fact that I mentioned the research in this area is limited. We are just relying on Transparency International surveys, U4 surveys, and all these big entities surveys that they have done. But looking at grassroots level where I work, very minimal surveys have been done. And I feel like this is also one of the areas that is really motivating me to continue working in this
Mm.
sector.
That's great. I mean, rich stuff that you've shared, you know. How do you maintain hope and resilience in the face of widespread corruption? I mean, all the things you've said are very powerful. And at the end, you were highlighting how corruption is still rife. And this actually has been a motivation for you, right? You mentioned that, I mean, corruption is still rife, it's still everywhere. It's been a motivation. Some people see that I've been working to combat corruption and it just keeps growing, like you're saying, it keeps mutating and, they keep finding different angles and different ways of being corrupt and all of that and tend to give up. But how do you maintain hope and resilience in the face of just this widespread corruption?
Yeah, I actually agree with you. Sometimes you feel like, oh my goodness, all my efforts, and then you go back to zero. Like you go back to square one. You've done something successfully and you feel like now this is a win. And then later you realize, no, you have to go back again. Now, let me just tell you this. This is the same
Mm.
thing talking to when I was doing the Integrity Club's empowerment program. I was telling these students, even when you do your monitoring activity, you might monitor a service of a project and you might reach a place that you might think, okay, I've successfully completed monitoring this project, but at the same time, something can come up And then you still have to go back to the circle and start from mobilization, engagement of the community members, and again, try to solve another problem. Problems never end in this world. And as I
Mm.
mentioned, corruption is a space that is mutating. But as much as it is mutating, let us also appreciate the small steps we are making.
The small
Because it
wins,
is
yeah.
not, yes, if you do not appreciate the small steps and actions, the small ways we are doing, we will not get motivated in this space and we might end up giving
True.
up. But it's not time to give up. I feel like we've not tried all the ways, you know.
Mm.
Uh, There are so many ways around this. So it is just us to keep on exploring more ways. And then we also seek for those donors and funders to also look into this sector and be able to support us with funding, because some people get discouraged in this space because there's no enough funding, especially at grassroots level. So if there are funders who can be able to come in and directly support grassroots organizations to do this work, then that would be great. But I'll tell myself every time that this space still requires me, despite having minimal changes. Of course, we are seeing the survey indicating minimal changes. But at the same time, if we still appreciate the small steps we are making that are creating changes, even if it's just 1%, we believe that this 1% tomorrow it will be 2%,
Mm.
3%. It will keep growing because change is gradual, and
True.
I have that faith that one day things will be better. I mean,
Wow.
even in our country right now, the Joe, back then it was very difficult for people to even to go to the streets and protest. But right now you're seeing people are well empowered. They know their rights and they know ways on how to be able to demand about their rights. I mean, that is a motivation. That is inspirational. Like, yes, we are winning this battle as much as we are experiencing minimal changes, but it will actually work out someday. Yes,
Mhm.
we are not where we were back in the years. We've made some steps. So you can imagine if we stay put and resilient, then we're going to go further. But at the same time, as we stay in this space, we need also to understand the current space, how it has changed. And I mentioned about the AI, artificial intelligence, how we also well empowered to utilize the changes that are happening in the world right now in the benefit of this fight against corruption. That's
Mm.
that's one of the ways we'll remain resilient, right? Like
True.
capitalizing on what is existing. If it is AI, can we take advantage of it and help us in the fight against corruption? Can we use social media in advocacy efforts? And how far can it take us? It is all
Mhm.
about exploring and, re-strategizing the strategies that you read. Go back to the books and read about it. Go back to the strategies and check, okay, where did we mess up? Or, okay, compared to what is happening right now, what can we add? What can we minus? So it's a
Yeah.
field that is very interesting because every day, every time, you will still need to think about it and come up with new strategies and interventions. So it's really nice.
Yeah. You enjoy it. That's good. I'm happy. I see
Yeah,
the smile on your face. I feel the passion. Yeah,
definitely,
thanks,
definitely.
Damaris.
I'm enjoying this space.
Yes, yes. I mean, the anti-corruption syndicate was just a beautiful time, and it's the project is still ongoing. We're gonna go back to it, and it's great to see you and feel the passion again and how you talk and the work you're doing. Now let's come a bit closer into you. We are zooming.
Wait, I was about to ask about the anti-corruption syndicate because I remember there was a time you organized several meetings and that was really great because it was a group of anti-corruption, or because we called it
Activism.
anti-corruption. It was a group of anti-corruption champions who were really bringing in various strategies, various ideas that some of us did not even know, sharing. I felt like the space was really nice, but I felt like it reached a point where we went silent. But if it can come back, I feel like it's really important because you also organize external meetings. I remember the time that we had a session with a University of Milofe and another one. That was
Yeah,
also
the
interesting because
USA.
exactly because it is such platforms that also create credibility on us as individuals in this
Yeah.
fight, so people can be able to actually see you as a vocal person, as a champion of integrity, and they can be able to even talk to you without fear, even if they want to report on something, they feel like, okay, this is the right person. So that credibility, that trust, and even if you are starting something in the community, they believe in you because they're seeing you not just locally, but they're also seeing you globally and your efforts being recognized. So I also appreciate you for that and
Thank
for
you.
all the sessions you organize for us, really.
Yeah, we'll go back to it. We'll go back to it. So let's come a bit closer to you and your life. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of your advocacy work?
Wow. That's a very interesting question. I remember when I was doing, especially the Students Acting for Honesty, Integrity, and Equality project, it was really
Mm,
consuming. I was the project officer, and most of the time I didn't even have time for myself. Schools in Kenya, you most of the time you're allowed to see students for the integrity clubs in the evenings when they are done with classes or on weekends. So we used
mm,
to work, you go to the office the whole day, and in the evening you need to go to school. And on weekends, on Saturdays, Sundays, you're supposed to go to school. So my colleagues were asking me, how are you balancing your life? Don't
mm,
you think that you need to take a break? And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I really need to take a break. So that's when I started having like vacations. So anytime I could get a chance, I take leave and go out for vacation, just rejuvenate and do just my own time to myself. It's really important. And another thing I also want to say that I balance both the advocacy work and my personal life. I'm human. I mean, right? I'm
yeah.
human. And despite my advocacy work, I still have family, right? And the
Hmm.
family still needs me, still needs my attention. I don't want to, it's not really good to raise family, especially if you are a mother or you are a parent and you have kids, you're raising kids where they see that the mother is always absent, the father is always absent. That is not really good. What are you nurturing in this young person? That it is
Mm,
okay for parents to just disappear and you just be there. How will they learn? So I try as much as I can to be present for my family as much as I can.
mm,
As much as I'm not married, I don't have kids, but I am present for my nephews, my nieces who also need my attention, my parents, my
mm,
friends, my relatives. I also need these connections because sometimes you need these connections, especially when you feel you are so tired, you need to vent out, you need to talk to them about the space, what you're going through. You just need someone to give you that support emotionally, physically, and all that. And at the
mm,
same time, you need to plan yourself in a way that you can also be able to just go out and have some time for yourself,
have
and
fun.
that is what I've been doing, and you've been seeing me going round. Round. But at the same time, even when I'm in this vacation, I still work, find time to work virtually because the organization still needs me, my community still needs me. So you will see me in vacations, but at the same time, I create a little bit of time to just ensure that things are okay and are running smoothly in
Yeah,
terms of the work that I do. Yeah.
that's beautiful. Okay, we're rounding up now. What message do you want to share with our listeners about the importance of fighting corruption?
Um, hmm. My message to everyone is, of course, we need a collective effort in this fight against corruption. And I want to tell people out there who are doing interventions and they feel like, okay, this intervention it is too small. I want to tell you that there is a saying that Dalai Lama said that if you feel like your actions or your interventions are very small, then you've never spent your time with a mosquito. It is very
Mm,
tiny, but the impact it can cause around you, yes. So I want to tell
huge.
huge. So I want to tell you those small actions, when combined with small actions from other people, it wraps into huge interventions. So let us not fear that we are doing small actions. We need collective action. We need collective effort in this fight against corruption. Please do not give up in this fight against corruption. It is change is gradual, but at the same time, it requires you and I, because we are all responsible. And please remember that integrity has to start from within yourself, because you cannot demand integrity from someone else if you yourself, you're not a person of integrity. And at the same time, please not join us in this fight against corruption. Why do I say this? Because corruption is affecting all the sectors of the economy, and directly or indirectly will surely affect you. So in your own way, please, if you are a parent, make sure you are playing your role in this fight against corruption. If you're a student, if you're working, if you're in non-governmental organization, if you're in government, please support this fight against corruption, because we all need you. And to the funders and donors, please do not give up in giving us funds. As much as USAID funding has been cut at the moment, we are still seeking support and funds from entities to just come in and support this sector, because it is very, very crucial. Please see us and see the voices of marginalized on grassroots activists who are working really on the ground to ensure that we are fighting this fight against corruption. Thank you so much, Dojo. Please just allow me to tell community members, anyone who is gonna watch this clip or hear this clip. I'm running an organization called Youth for Integrity Building, and this organization is still in its early stages and we really need support. We are working on various programs and projects, and all these are supporting in the fight against corruption, social injustices, and enhancing democracy in the community. Right now, we are having several programs, but allow me to just mention two in interest of time. We are running a digital empowerment program where we are offering digital skills free to community members in our community. It is free. They don't pay anything for registration. They don't pay anything for the training. They don't pay anything for exams. They don't pay anything for certificates. We are doing this for free. But please, in the course of us doing this work, we are facing challenges where some of the computers end up spoiled in the process, and some of the, so we are also requesting that people who have maybe desktops they are not using and they want to dispose, they can be able to reach us at Youth for Integrity Building, and it go a long way to support you the digital empowerment program that you are offering called Chanukana Digi Skills. So if you have any gadgets that you, especially desktops or laptops that you're not using, you will please be able to just reach out to us. We will really appreciate. Or if you want to support that program with anything else, in-kind donation or financial, we also appreciate. And we're also running a leadership program that is empowering young people on leadership skills. And this program runs for 4 months, and right now we've just completed the second cohort of the Integrity Leadership Development Program. And when we're conducting these programs, we have facilitators from around the world who are coming in to facilitate various modules, because we have 8 interesting modules that are meant to empower these people in their leadership journey, as well as also providing them with tools and resources to lead ethically and also, effectively take up the leadership roles. So, and when we finish the program, there's always a pitching session where we tell them to come up with proposals of the project they'll be able to implement in their communities, because we believe in ripple effects. We are training them, and then when they go outside to either train or do an activity or a project in the community, we are reaching out, we are scaling our intervention and reaching out to a lot of people. So when they are done with the trainings, they do pitch, and the best project is being awarded a seed grant of about 450 to 500 USD dollars. And this goes a long way to supporting in ripple effect. And these ideas that are being pitched by these fellows are very interesting. They're very needful. The gap is really existing, and sometimes we feel like even supporting just one is really challenging, because the ideas are really great, and we feel like, why can't we just have enough funds to be able to support probably the first, the second, and third? But the challenge, as I already mentioned, the organization does not have external funders. It is just depending on board members and support from us, community members and friends who are coming in to support. our initiatives or our projects and activities at the moment. So if you feel touched to maybe support any of our programs, please reach out to our website. I will share the link to our website with you. We are also on social media platforms. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and you will find us on Youth for Integrity Building Organization. The way it appears, just like that, it's just the same way. That's our logo. And you will find us on those platforms, and you'll be able to witness what we are doing, because we keep posting what we are doing. As you know, if you need proof for that, you can be able to see the proof. And I'm looking forward to also working with you. If you have any ideas that you want to share with us, any strategies or any tools, please feel free to reach out to us, and we really appreciate. At the same time, I wouldn't really be mean. I would like to tell anyone who comes across this link to also understand that we offer internships and attachment for students. We offer that space for them to just come and learn for free. Yeah, so if there's anyone within our space, within our area, who's going to listen to this and has someone who's looking for internship or attachment, link them to us, and they can be able to come and get attached to us, and we'll be able to support them. So thank you so much, Dojo. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for highlighting our work and bringing us to this platform. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate the work you're doing. May God continue to bless
Awesome.
you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Damaris. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights and your inspiring journey. So the links to Youth for Integrity Building is going to be at the video description, the description of the video. So you can contact them directly. All right. So it's been great having you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is mine.
Thanks for listening to A Day in the Life from Heaven Every Day. I'm your host, Dijo Kwaku. Every day is a story waiting to be written. Join us next time as we continue to explore the human experience. Subscribe to A Day in the Life for more inspiring stories, and share this episode with someone whose story deserves to be heard.